Maria Santos wiped down the mahogany conference table for the third time that evening, her weathered hands moving in practiced circles across the polished surface. At 62, she had cleaned these offices for 17 years, arriving when the executives left and departing before they returned. She was invisible to most, a shadow that kept their world pristine. But tonight, as she emptied the trash bin beside the CEO's desk, she noticed something that made her pause. A phone, buzzing insistently, its screen illuminating the darkened room with an urgent glow. The caller ID read, "Frankfurt office." Maria hesitated. She knew better than to touch things that weren't hers. But the phone kept ringing, and something in her chest, that same instinct that had guided her through poverty, immigration, and single motherhood, told her this call mattered. She answered in her accented English, "Hello." The voice on the other end was frantic, speaking rapid German before switching to English. "Finally. We've been trying to reach Mr. Harrison for hours. The Hoffman deal, we need the revised contract signed by midnight Frankfurt time, or we lose everything. $40 million in 3 years of negotiations. Gone." Maria's heart pounded. She didn't understand corporate deals or international contracts, but she understood desperation. She heard it in the man's voice, the same terror she'd felt when her daughter needed emergency surgery and she didn't have insurance. "Mr. Harrison not here," she said carefully. "I am cleaning lady. But I help you. Tell me what you need." There was a pause. She could almost feel the man's skepticism through the phone. "Look, I appreciate it, but this requires executive authorization. Can you reach Mr. Harrison? His cell? His home?" Maria thought quickly. She'd seen the emergency contact list in the main office directory. "Wait, please. I find numbers." She hurried to the reception desk, her cleaning cart rattling behind her. Her daughter Carmen had taught her how to navigate smartphones, insisting she needed to know, in case of emergencies, Mama. Maria had laughed then, wondering what emergencies a cleaning woman could possibly handle. Now she understood. She found Mr. Harrison's personal cell in the directory and called it while keeping the German caller on the line. It rang once, twice, then went to voicemail. She tried the COO, the CFO, every executive she could find. Nothing. Friday night, and they'd all disappeared into their privileged lives. The German voice returned, now edged with defeat. "It's no use. By the time we reach anyone, it'll be too late. 300 jobs in Frankfurt, gone. Tell Mr. Harrison we tried." "No." Maria surprised herself with her own force. "No, you don't give up. My daughter, she works with computers. She goes to university. Maybe she helps. What you need, exactly." The man, who introduced himself as Klaus Weber, the Frankfurt office director, explained that the contracts were on the company's secure server. They needed someone to access Mr. Harrison's computer, retrieve the files, and email them with authorization. But it required passwords and executive access Maria didn't have. "Wait," she said, remembering something. Every evening, she cleaned Mr. Harrison's desk, moving around his computer station. And every evening, she noticed the same yellow sticky note tucked under his keyboard with various passwords. She'd never thought about it, had never cared about corporate secrets, but now. "I try something," she told Klaus. She went to Mr. Harrison's office and carefully lifted the keyboard. There it was, the yellow note with 6 different passwords. Her hands shook as she powered on the computer. Carmen had taught her basic computer skills, but this was different. This was a world she didn't belong to. Klaus guided her through each step, his patience remarkable for a man watching millions evaporate. "Click the folder labeled, Hoffman." "Yes, that one. Now find the most recent date." Maria squinted at the screen, her bifocals slipping down her nose. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, and somewhere in the building, a vacuum cleaner droned, another invisible worker keeping the machinery running. "I see it," she breathed. Hoffman _revised final October 15.pdf. "That's it. Now you need to email it, but here's the problem, it needs to come from Mr. Harrison's email with his authorization, or Hoffman won't accept it. They're very particular about protocol." Maria stared at the screen, then at Mr. Harrison's business cards stacked neatly on his desk. She thought about all the times she'd been invisible, all the times her words hadn't mattered because of her accent, her position, her station in life. But tonight, her words would carry the weight of a $40 million deal. I write email, she said firmly. You tell me what to say, but I add something too. Klaus dictated the formal language, the legal necessities, the corporate protocol. Then Maria added her own lines, typing slowly with 2 fingers. Mr. Hoffman, I am Maria Santos. I cleaned the offices here for 17 years. Tonight, I answer Mr. Harrison's phone because he is not here, and I hear that many people need help. In my country, we have a saying, La unión hace la fuerza, unity makes strength. I am sending this because I believe in people helping people, not because I understand your business, but because I understand what it means when families need jobs to survive. Mr. Harrison will speak with you tomorrow, but tonight, I hope this helps. With respect, Maria Santos. She hit send before she could second-guess herself. The silence on the phone stretched for an eternity. Then Klaus's voice returned, thick with emotion. Maria, I don't know if that will work, but, thank you. In 15 years of corporate law, I've never seen anything like this. Maria returned to her cleaning, her heart still racing. She didn't tell anyone. What would she say? That she'd touched the CEO's computer. Used his email. She could be fired. Deported, even, if they wanted to make trouble for an immigrant who'd overstepped. She went home to her small apartment and said nothing to Carmen, who was studying for midterms at the kitchen table. Monday morning, Maria arrived for her shift expecting security to escort her out. Instead, she found her cart decorated with balloons and a note. Maria, please report to the executive floor at 9 a.m. J. Harrison. Her stomach dropped. This was it. Termination. Possibly worse. She took the elevator up with trembling hands, still wearing her cleaning uniform. The executive assistant smiled warmly and ushered her into a conference room where Mr. Harrison sat with several other executives, and on the video screen, Klaus Weber from Frankfurt. Mrs. Santos, Mr. Harrison began, standing. I owe you an apology. I was at a concert Friday night with my phone off. When I checked my messages Saturday morning, I found 67 missed calls and 1 email from myself that I didn't write. He smiled. An email that saved a $40 million partnership and 300 jobs. Maria's eyes widened as Klaus spoke from the screen. Herr Hoffman was so moved by your message, Mrs. Santos, that he called me personally at 1 a.m. Frankfurt time. He said in 30 years of business, he'd never received such an honest communication. He signed immediately. The room erupted in applause. Maria stood frozen, overwhelmed. But Mr. Harrison wasn't finished. Mrs. Santos, for 17 years, you've been the backbone of this office, and I never knew your name until Saturday. That's going to change. He handed her an envelope. Inside is a bonus equal to 1% of the deal's commission, $400,000. And a new position, if you want it, Director of Facilities and Human Resources, with full benefits and a salary that reflects your value. Maria's hands shook as she opened the envelope. Through tears, she thought of Carmen's student loans, the medical bills, the apartment that leaked when it rained. But more than that, she thought about being seen, finally, truly seen, not as a cleaning lady, but as a person whose instincts and compassion mattered. In my country, she said softly, her voice steadying, we say that God writes straight with crooked lines. I just answered a phone. But maybe sometimes, the crooked line is the right path. That night, she called Carmen and told her everything. And when she finally hung up, Maria looked at her weathered hands, hands that had scrubbed floors and raised a child and answered a phone that changed everything, and smiled. Because sometimes, the most important calls in life are answered by the people nobody expects.